Jer is getting the wax amount officially. I'm excited to hear if my guess was somewhat right.
Yeah, you're pretty close. 127.
127 ounces of wax.
It's gonna be a big boy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cultivated Candle Co. YouTube channel. We're at the candle studio this evening for a really fun vlog, and it's something that we've never done before. This is our first vlog in our vintage candle challenge series, which is something that will happen now every single month.
Yeah, it's something that we've actually wanted to do for a few years. Not necessarily as a vlog, but we've just kind of wanted to do it. We've wanted to take vintage pieces that are even further out from being candle vessels than our normal antique pieces, and just kind of play around and see, you know, what kind of like fun, really unique pieces we can make.
Yeah, like what can we candlefy? Like I've always wanted to use that word, candlefy.
And I almost want to find out what we can't candlefy.
Yeah, that'll probably happen at least once. Hopefully it's not with our first one though. So we found this week's piece last week, I think it was last week, on our antique haul in Dayton.
I have a bad habit of closing and locking antique items that we do not have the key to. So this is locked. He just locked it.
So our first challenge with the tackle box is that I locked it. So I brought some tools here. Hopefully all of them won't need to be used, but the first step is to pick this lock.
All of these tools are to try to unlock this.
Not all of them. The goof off and these chisels are not, but the others are.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
That would really mess up our first candle challenge vlog if we can't get this open.
Well, I can get it open. Fingers crossed I don't have to break anything. I hope that unlocking this tackle box is very anticlimactic. Colleen hasn't let me give it a try before the vlog. She wants everything to be alive. I just wanted to get it over with. My first resort are going to be using these little metal pokers. I'm hoping that I can just stick this in the lock, and because it's old, it'll just come undone. Last resort though, I'm going to be drilling through the lock to release it. Alright, I've been waiting for this little moment to see how simple this is or isn't. Seems like isn't is going to be the... This lock looks like it's gonna break without me even trying to break.
Yeah, it does.
Ooh. What really drew me to this tackle box when I first saw it in the antique store was that there are so many different opportunities to have all these little individual candles in the tray, and then to have one huge candle in the base of the tackle box, and just the fact that it all moves as you open it and close it. That'll be really, really fun as a candle. And now the challenge is getting all of this cork off of here, and then whatever adhesive is below it, removing that and making sure that the tackle box is going to be waterproof or wax proof in our case.
So I personally feel like these down here are going to be pretty tricky once he gets there.
Alright, so the cork is off mostly. We just got some adhesive left, so I'm going to use this goof off and just a score pad and just try to scrape off the rest of this adhesive here.
So what has been the most difficult part of this process so far?
The most difficult part is once you get the big pieces of cork removed, just scraping off the adhesive, like the big chunks of adhesive. It's not the hardest thing, just very tedious and time consuming.
Right.
I use some general cleaner just to clean off the goof off residue, and then I'm just gonna get some paper towels to dry this up. So now I'm gonna be moving on to sealing the seams of this. Now this is gonna be a little bit different than our normal tins. So our normal tins usually have a seam along the inside there and then around the inside. And this box is actually rolled steel. So you can see like right here that even though there's a crease, there's no seam. So what I'm actually gonna be sealing off are just these little dividers here. That way each one of these can be its own individual candle.
So a pretty basic challenge. We couldn't get the sealant out of the edge of the tube, so
To the fingers we go.
Fingers. It seems like adding them into the corners is kind of difficult. Like we probably need a lot of sealant in those areas. And then onto the bottom shelf.
All right, so we are back in the candle studio for round 2 of our crazy candle challenge.
So we sealed the tin a few days ago. It's had plenty of time to sit. The sealant is cured now. I believe all of the compartments are water and wax proof. We're gonna find out if they are, if they aren't, because right now is moving on to the fun part of the challenge.
And the first part of sealing it and Jer stripping it of like that cardboard, cork board type of stuff was definitely the bigger part of the challenge, but I still think it's gonna be a little challenging getting all of the wax into these compartments, deciding how to wick, and also our water wax measurement. You kind of think it's gonna be easier.
It'll be a breeze for me.
So as we do with all of our vintage pieces, even our vintage challenge piece, the first step before jumping into actual candle making is to measure out how much wax it's going to hold. Now Jared thinks it's going to be pretty easy to measure out the wax amount even though there's multiple compartments, but I think it might be a little bit trickier on our smaller scale. Basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take water, pour it into our vintage tackle box on the scale, and then from there we have an equation that converts it into wax. This is how we do measurements with all of our vintage pieces. We're gonna measure the entire tackle box at the same time, even with multiple compartments. I'm gonna start with our big guy first. I have a feeling we're gonna have to run back and get more water. So Jared, I'm excited for you to see this wax amount. And so it's not the wax amount yet, obviously it's the water amount, but we're so used to using that equation, I can kind of guesstimate how much it's gonna be. This might be our biggest candle that we've made yet.
What's the water amount?
152 ounces.
Wow.
So I feel like with our equation, it might take it to 130, but we'll do the equation and see.
All right, Jer is getting the wax amount officially. I'm excited to hear if my guess was somewhat right.
Yeah, you're pretty close. 127.
127 ounces of wax.
It's gonna be a big boy. Dump this on you.
No. Oh, you better be careful.
You better walk faster.
You're walking so fast, you're splashing it.
It's alright. Just a little water. With you out of my way.
So now that we got the tackle box dry for the most part, it was a little bit of a journey getting it to the sink. It is time to decide how we're going to wick this baby up which is Jer's expertise.
Yep. So the big question was, so what I was getting ready to ask you earlier was how many wicks you thought would go in these small compartments, because whenever something is so shallow, it doesn't have kind of the space for the walls to heat up and to help melt everything down.
Right.
So I think we probably actually need 2 wicks,
I agree.
1, 2, for each one of these. That way it burns evenly. And then 1, 2, 1, 2, and probably gonna need 6 right
6?
here.
We don't need 6 there.
You think 4?
I honestly think for the ones down here, because we have another
right.
heating compartment right here because the metal's gonna heat, I think we could get away with 3 right
And we
here,
don't wanna
1
flame
here,
too
1
close to
here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think we need 2 up here because it's not gonna have like that heat radiating off.
Alright, so we'll do that, and then the base, how far back? Well, I mean, we might be able to just do 1 row.
That's the only thing I think we can do, because we can't put the wicks down there. We just have to hope that the heat also radiates up off of here, even though this is an insane amount.
It won't, not enough. So basically the entire back of this is going to be just a block of wax that won't be melting.
Does that mean that we failed the challenge?
No, it's still a candle.
Yeah.
I mean,
But we'll see when it burns. But I think we have our wick decisions.
Yep, I think so.
How many are we gonna have in this?
Either 20, 22 or 23.
Part of the challenge, Matt.
Part of the challenge, yeah. Simple math.
And that's probably the most that we have ever had in a candle, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right, so time to get her wicked up. So I now made the suggestion, we were gonna line like a row of just 1 wick. I think we were thinking 5. I made the suggestion of maybe adding 2, but Jer's a little worried that the flame might be too close to the metal here. I think if we have them together, it might be okay, but I get what you're saying. What do you think still?
I say we zigzag them.
Zigzag. So zigzag the 5, or would we add 1 in?
No, we'd add more in. That way we could get like this.
That works. Let's try it.
Because if they were like this, they'd be way too close to one another.
Right.
But that way we can get a little bit further back.
Yeah, and I like the idea of doing a little further back to maximize that area.
Zigzag it is.
Cool.
So our batches are ready to be poured into the vintage tackle box. We actually ended up trimming our wicks up here because something we didn't think about with the challenge was whenever we pour into our vintage pieces, we have to manually move the wicks to make it even. That might be tricky since this is our piece that has had the most wicks out of any candle. And because of that, I'm actually gonna start up top where the wicks are shorter. It's gonna be easier to manage, and then save the big part for last because that's gonna be more difficult, making sure all of our wicks are straight. So I'm about to finish pouring the base, and you guys probably didn't see this on camera, but this, I didn't realize there was a hole here, so it leaked a little into the lid. I think that's okay. And we also did have some carryover
from each, but I think in terms of burning, it should be okay.
So I am still working on making sure the wicks are at their perfect spot so it burns evenly, but I don't know if you guys saw, as I started pouring the top part, this is something that never happens because we don't work with pieces like this, the weight distribution kind of moved the tackle box to the left. I was a little worried there that we were gonna have an accident. So now that it has had time to cure after being poured, we have brought the vintage tackle box candle home and we're about to light it for the first time.
Yeah, and it's really exciting because this is definitely the biggest, craziest, most extra candle that we've ever made. So I'm really excited to see all 22 wicks burning at the same time. It's gonna be so fun.
Thank you so much for watching the CCC Vintage Candle Challenge, our first one ever. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more fun videos around candles, vintage, and CCC as a whole. And if you guys have any ideas for our next vintage candle challenge, please let us know.